Now this is an intro you do not want to skip, as here is one of my favorite memories on YouTube where I got playfully roasted by the guys at Double Toasted for my quick reaction to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
why you, Sebastian? Why you laughing at this, man? Sebastian back to the nerd.
Well, yeah, that kind of goes without saying. I mean, those are some giant glasses he's got.
I know, nigga, man, I ain't gonna say nothing.
And the magnification, good lord, it's like he can see the future
Well,
with those things.
But no wonder he liked the movie. He was right there with the dinosaurs.
He was in Jurassic
Shit,
Times.
yeah. Shit, he saw this in 3D where they weren't showing 3D. I walked with a dinosaur.
But he lets it be known right off the bat he's a dino enthusiast. Mm-hmm. And he was talking fast to make sure he got everything he wanted to say in within his time, and threw in a plug for himself.
No, that's good. That's good.
Man, does everybody have a YouTube channel now?
Everybody
does.
channel.
Yeah, except you, Martin. Better jump on it.
Okay.
What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for Jurassic World Rebirth in one take. Now, the plot of this sci-fi thriller follows a team on an expedition through isolated areas of the equator to extract dinosaur DNA for a groundbreaking medical breakthrough. Going into this movie, I honestly did not have that much in terms of expectations. Now, I want to preface this by saying that since I was a kid, I was a huge dino nut. I mean, I loved all things dinosaurs. Here is a dinosaur encyclopedia that my parents bought me when I was a kid, and they paid $30 for, and I read cover to cover multiple times. Hundreds of pages here before I could even fully read, as yeah, I would memorize and know the names of like every species of dinosaurs, the different periods. Of course, Jurassic is one of the periods that has now become most famous because of the movies, and going into that, I did not see any of the Jurassic Park movies until I was a bit older. I mean, going into my teen years. And speaking of the movies here, so Jurassic Park from 1993. What can I say about this film that hasn't been said already? It is one of the best sci-fi movies ever made, one of the best movies that Steven Spielberg has ever made. It was the highest grossing movie of all time for a period, beating his own E.T. the Extraterrestrial previously. And yeah, I mean, this is just one of those perfect movies, I think. And then Spielberg went on to direct the sequel, The Lost World Jurassic Park, which I do think has a lot of fun moments, like the T-Rex getting loose in San Diego and all that stuff, and, still having the novelty of Spielberg directing something like that. Yeah, good entertainment there. Then we have Jurassic Park 3, which is easily the worst of the series. I mean, I barely remember anything from that in any sense. And then 10 years ago, if you could believe that, 10 years ago, we got Jurassic World, which this is one of the first movies that I actually saw twice in the theater because I did like it a lot when I initially first saw it and reviewed it. And, this being one that many people thought was a return to form for the series. Of course, your mileage is going to vary because, of course, nothing can top the original. But, I had a lot of fun with this, with the cast and the gimmick now that the park is open and all hell is breaking loose. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one, too. Then we got its sequel, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which, after the first Jurassic World film, each one of the two sequels got progressively worse, though I still found some semblance of joy or fun in them because, again, I am a dino enthusiast, as Martin from Double Toasted pointed out in that clip. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing that blast or flashback or blast from the past. I don't know, I can't talk right now. But yeah, Fallen Kingdom, when it got to the end, I thought that, now we're going to live up to the whole meaning of Jurassic World that these movies are now titled for. And then we got Jurassic World Dominion a few years ago. And yeah, like I said, each one of these Jurassic World movies got worse after they went along. And, it was cool seeing the OG cast from the original Jurassic Park come back and interact with the new characters, like the ones played by Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. But yeah, I mean, I like seeing dinosaurs again. So, yeah, you can't really blame me that much for that. But yeah, not the best, but now that we have Jurassic World Rebirth, I mean, we literally got this thing fast-tracked for just another entry in the Jurassic franchise to happen. All three Jurassic World movies made $1 billion. They made $1 billion each, so of course, the franchise is going to keep going in some way or in some form, or of course, for theatrical release for the movies. I mean, we got the cast all together, and it was filming last year, so it got into production pretty quickly, and now we have it here for this 4th of July weekend. Happy 4th of July weekend to all of my viewers here in the United States. I hope you are enjoying it and are staying safe. I mean, I can barely sleep because of the fireworks cracking off all over my neighborhood. But anyway, what did give me some sort of interest or some semblance of optimism for this movie was the writer and director and, some of the cast that was assembled for this movie. And, it's a standalone sequel, technically. It takes place 5 years after Dominion, but you technically don't have to watch any of the other films in the Jurassic franchise to go into this one. But in any sense, yeah. So, starting out with the cast and their performances. We have Scarlett Johansson as the mission specialist of this group on this expedition. And, who doesn't love ScarJo? I love her. You love her. I hope so, because, she's a talented actress and not just a pretty face, I would say. And, she's strong. She has her reasons to go ahead and be on this expedition with the rest of the crew here, like Jonathan Bailey, who plays this paleontologist, who is very pro-science. And when he is recruited to do this whole thing where this medical breakthrough could happen, of course, the interest in dinosaurs at this point in the franchise is going down. He works at a museum and, he's on the brink of losing his job. So he's like, okay, yeah, screw it. I'll go on this expedition. I really liked him as Fiero in the Wicked movie from last year. I can't wait to see what he does in Wicked for Good later this year. And, I thought he worked in his part well. I mean, him and ScarJo had nice moments together. Mahershala Ali plays the team leader here, who also has the boat that they're all going on. And, he was my favorite character easily here. I mean, he's just so cool. A long time since I've seen Mahershala Ali on the big screen. Kind of feels like he was supposed to have been doing or have done another franchise film where he plays a vampire, I think, that has still not gone off the ground. Anyway, but whatever. Yeah, Mahershala Ali, 2-time Academy Award winner Mahershala Ali. He is awesome here. And, having a heart, too, because of the B subplot and him trying to get involved as well, too, to keep everyone safe and just go along with this expedition with all these extenuating circumstances. There's also Ed Skrein, who's another member of this crew. And then Rupert Friend, he is this big pharma representative who's the one trying to get these dino DNA extractions all together, of course, trying to use it so that it's available to cure diseases or illnesses, but having only the rich be able to get it, kind of like today. I mean, if anything, that's a pretty realistic part of this movie. But in any sense, yeah, the core cast here, I thought they worked well, even if their characters or the writing for the characters were pretty basic, and I would say to the point of just being two-dimensional. As going into the writing, the writer of this film is David Koepp, who co-wrote the original Jurassic Park film with the author of the original book that it was adapted from, Michael Crichton. And I never read the book, and I heard that it's pretty different from how the movie turned out or whatever. But, they both contributed to one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. So I guess I could forgive that if I was a fan of the book and I knew what was in there. But anyway, just looking at it on its own again, yeah, Jurassic Park, hardly any movie can beat that. So seeing how David Koepp returned here, that had my interest to see what he could do with a script like this. And like I said, the characters here, they really didn't do much aside from the basic archetypes that we were introduced with before they all get on the boat and are on this expedition to go and get this dino DNA that is supposed to make them big money or whatever. And yeah, I mean, they worked for what they were trying to do, but it's nothing like how there was a whole existential crisis going on with the first Jurassic Park film, because the park hadn't opened, but all this technology and stuff to bring back dinosaurs, genetically modified dinosaurs too, as we keep going through the sequels, all that is there. But yeah, it feels like that it just feels like a basic kind of plot that is simple to just get going and have another kind of adventure with these dinos here. I will say that the simple plot that we are given here, it is very direct. It doesn't fuss around too much with details, aside from going into the B subplot, which I'll mention now. So there's a family of 4. The dad, played by Manuel Garcia-Rulfo, who is with his 2 daughters and the older daughter's boyfriend. And yeah, they're on a boat. They get capsized and they eventually get in the same area, or they are rescued. They cross paths with the main A group with Ali, Bailey, Johansson and company. And, I like their subplot for what they were trying to go for. The boyfriend character got a lot of laughs out of myself and my audience here. And, there's a thing going on between himself and the dad because it's like, oh, you're dating my daughter, whatever. So cliche there too and stuff. But, at least that kept the movie going in some sense because we weren't just relegated to the whole A plot line. Because even though it's something that we have seen before in many instances, it still kept my attention more or less for what was going in terms of the narrative going along. Now, the movie is directed by Gareth Edwards, who recently is known for having done a lot of big scale, big budget stuff. He did 2014's Godzilla, which is the first movie in Legendary's MonsterVerse, which I did like. He then did Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which now, after Andor having just been completed, a lot of people say that's now the best movie in the Star Wars franchise ever since Disney got a hold of that property. I really like that movie too. And then most recently, a couple years ago, he did The Creator, starring John David Washington, about him protecting a little AI girl, which I loved, honestly. I think that is a super underrated movie. More people should seek that film out. And now we have him as a wise choice to direct a Jurassic movie, because what he does know is to have a sense of scale once we get on the island. Even before we get on the island, though, when we're on the boats, both with the A team and the B subplot, we see like how vast everything is, going around and seeing all these dinosaurs. The water-bound dinosaurs also trying to kill anything in its or their paths, because there's a lot of them. There's more than one at one point. And it once we get on the island, I mean, the movie is superbly shot. This movie was apparently shot on film, and I could tell with some grain on the screen. It's probably the best looking Jurassic film maybe since the first film. Maybe it's certainly one of the better looking ones among the sequels because of how once we get to the island, we get to see all the foliage and the mountains and everything. Again, scale is what Edwards is really, really good at. And once we do get to the island too, that is when I think the narrative starts to drag a bit. It slows down because that's where most of this movie does take place. A huge chunk of it, of course, we're getting the extractions of the dino DNA and all that stuff. And then the group eventually gets separated. Both groups get separated. And it's basically going through the motions of what we have seen before. There are two direct tributes or attempted homages to the original Jurassic Park film where we see the long-necked dinosaurs. I forgot what they are. Either the Brachiosauruses or Galapaguses, whatever. See, I still remember those names. But we see some of the characters in awe of seeing them moving in herds, just like that one moment in the first film, of course. Very iconic moment there. And then another moment towards the end during the climax when some characters are hiding in a convenience store on the island. It's very reminiscent of the whole Velociraptor sequence from the first film where the two kids are hiding in the kitchen, all that. Pretty terrifying here. One thing this movie does do or attempt to do is bring back the horror with the Jurassic franchise. I know the first film had a lot of people really into that and seeing the T-Rex wreck shop and everything on the island or attacking the main characters. Basically, the opening scene of this movie gives us that sense of how the dinosaurs are, even in the name of science and all that stuff. But then, yeah, we see different kinds of dinosaurs here pop up here and there, new ones even that we haven't seen. They're all genetically modified, of course, just how they are. And you know what, when we do get to reintroduce to this world, it's like, yeah, dinosaurs are coexisting with everybody and such too. But again, the interest in dinosaurs is going down. That's why the whole main crutch of the plot is going to try and have this medical breakthrough given the dino DNA that is sought after. These three MacGuffins, if you will, just on the island. But then, yet the movie I still think moves mostly well at a pace that, again, my attention was held. The movie runs at about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And honestly, after we get on the island, you could argue that there's some chunks or some bits that could have been cut to have at least 15 minutes or more just to have it go along a lot more efficiently, because there's some downtime in between, certain characters don't make it and all this other stuff, because that's the nature of these kinds of films. And with other technical elements, I mean, I mentioned how stunning this movie is. It was shot in Thailand, I believe, and you can tell with locations and just how everyone's in the elements. The original score by Alexandre Desplat, one of the best composers working today. There are, of course, reprises of the famous theme from Jurassic Park by John Williams here, either interpolated or reprised or interspersed, whatever. Used here to varying degrees, like I said, in terms of one moment trying to recapture recapture what was done with that one iconic moment in the first film. There's a piano rendition of the theme heard here that I actually quite enjoyed. I was like, wow, I never heard it played on a piano or just used like that. And I was like, yeah, that moment was nice too. And yeah, the way the movie is cut all together, again, it could have ended up being shorter in some instances, running at a rate to where, like, yeah, we're getting through the basic stuff a lot quicker, despite this movie already being so direct and basic with the storyline. But, you know, the direction by Gareth Edwards, I thought, really worked well here in getting to the action. The action, when we're in the water, and also once we're on the island and seeing the dinos attack, you know, all that good stuff is there. It's there just like what we've seen in other Jurassic Park, or now Jurassic World films, this being the 7th film altogether. I mean, wow, there's been that many of these. And, you know, it's hard to say that, you know, I think that this movie has anything that's that bad about it. I mean, it's inessential. I would say it's a recycled romp altogether, like I've said, with how there are elements here that we've seen before, and now they're trying to be done in this context as the standalone sequel to try and work its way in keeping the franchise going. But, you know, I would say that it is well made, or too well made for me to say that it's one of the very lesser of the sequels to Jurassic Park. I would say that this film does have so many elements that are entertaining about it. I mean, myself, you know, the little kid inside me, you know, that loved dinosaurs in the past, you know, is getting a kick out of this and just seeing all the action and violence go underway. Even if it doesn't feel like this is moving the franchise in any meaningful way, I would say the way it ends, without any spoilers, it's not necessarily left open for a sequel per se. I think it ends in a nice way. I thought it ended well. But of course, you know, the movie is hinging on having a big success be given towards it. It's already made a lot of money here, I think, in the US and around the world anyway, because, you know, the extra long weekend, this film having been released this past Wednesday, given the 4th of July holiday here in the United States. But anyway, yeah, like, if this movie doesn't make $1 billion, I mean, I don't know, maybe Universal's going to rethink of, like, should we keep making more of these? And that's why this movie got made so quickly after the last one, because all 3 Jurassic World movies made $1 billion each, as I said. But all in all, I would say that Jurassic World Rebirth, yeah, it's a recycled romp and an essential, but it is superbly shot and has some scale, like the semblance of scale that is in all around it. And there are entertaining bits here and there. Some sequences, I would say, are some of the standouts of the franchise thus far. And even with that, I think that anyone can go into this thing, you know, if they want to kill about a couple hours or so, have some mindless entertainment. I think this does work in terms of that, again, not necessarily being reliant on you having seen the other ones, although if you haven't seen the original Jurassic Park by now, like, come on, what are you doing? But yeah, in any sense, that's how I would say it is all summed up with Jurassic World Rebirth. Is the franchise necessarily reborn for new blood, or just continuing on altogether? Well, that's left to the audience for them to decide. Left for the audience to decide. Ugh, this is what I get for doing this in one take. But yeah, I'm about to wrap this up anyway. But yeah, that's up for them to decide. And, you know, if popularity still stands with dinosaurs and just the Jurassic Park franchise altogether, we may or may not get another one. But as it stands here, I thought that Jurassic World Rebirth was okay. I would not say it's a bad time altogether, but I don't think it is necessarily great either. But, you know, I think there are worse ways you would pass your time in the theater this summer in some senses. But, of course, July is a big month for movies. I mean, we got Superman next week, and we have Fantastic Four, the first steps, later this month. So this is a very big movie month, not just because it's the summer, but, you know, for Hollywood in general, because, you know, looking for hits and all that stuff. And, you know, yeah, even with me thinking this movie is fine, of course, it's up to you to decide to see how this all comes together. With all that being said, my final verdict for Jurassic World Rebirth is 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Jurassic World Rebirth, social media links in the description, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.